Laugh, and the world will laugh with you. Unless you are Gwynplaine, then they'll laugh at you. Welcome back, everyone. This is my first time ever doing a silent film, and we are going to talk about the 1928 film, The Man Who Laughs. Now, this is a Victor Hugo book. I did not know that, so I'm probably going to read that too. He did Hunchback of Notre Dame, so I kind of want to read that as well. But this is my first time doing a silent film, so I'm really excited. I never even watched a silent film, so this is something that's been on my list for a long time of watching. And fun fact, this is actually inspiration the Joker. So you can definitely see similarities watching this movie of the Joker. So this movie is in black and white and it's silent, but throughout, the biggest thing about this movie is the music. The music's probably the most important part of this movie because it gravitates to show you how the audience, how you should actually kind of feel through it. And on top of that, the acting. Holy crap. I never realized how good movies are without anyone talking. And what the movie does is when characters talk, they do show you clips of dialogue through it of what characters say. And I have wrote down some of them that actually kind of hit me in the soul. But with that being said, let's get into it. So this movie opens up with the Jester. And I actually thought the Jester was going to be the Man Who Laughs for a moment because he just kind of looks like it, but the Jester is just a terrible man. But the Jester actually wakes up King James II because it's during the 17th century of Europe. They captured the rebel, this rebel that the king has wanted, and then the rebel and the king talk, and the rebel he came back because all he wants is a son. And the king is like, well, that sucks for you because your son's actually with the gypsies and they're doing things to your son's face.
What did he say?
And what I'm saying that is there's a thing that in this time the gypsies would mutilate children, which is so messed up to think about, but they would mutilate the children to make them look different for the carnival.
Jesus Christ.
And for the circus and stuff, and that's what happens to this man's child. And I'm gonna call the child Gwen for the rest of this, just because. And then this other character in here is a girl. Her name is Dia, just so you guys all know. Once that is said, they actually just get rid of the rebel and just kill him. And then they move up a little bit and the king makes a demand that every single gypsy will be killed if they are caught with what they have done to these children. And it shows up and it tells you these things through news clippings, which I find really interesting to see because honestly I didn't really expect that, because my whole time watching this I was like, how am I gonna know things? But it shows news clippings or just letters and stuff. It's a really fun way to see what they do in these movies to make you understand what's going on. And once that happens, they show a ship and this little boy is following these gypsies, and they get on the ship except for the little boy. The gypsies are like, no, we can't take him or we will die. And that's the main character. That's how we meet Gwynplaine. Good old Gwen. And Gwen's a go. I mean, he's a go. Wow, what an actor. This actor kills it. Gwen gets left behind in the middle of this frozen tundra, and he just walks and he finds a frozen woman, she's literally frozen to death, and the baby's still alive, so he grabs the baby and tucks the baby inside of his jacket to make sure the baby's warm, and he goes to the circus area where there's some gypsies and stuff. And it's just caravans and stuff of carnivals and stuff, and he meets this guy named Ursus. I think that's how you pronounce his name. That's kind of where Gwen is saved, because the man actually finds out what happened. He's like, you're one of them. The little boy, how he does his smiling thing isn't nearly as intense, but he's like that, which is perfectly fine. I mean, it's almost 100 years old, this movie is. So I didn't really expect a child, because child actors is just never the greatest anyways. When you find some, they're in everything, so there's that. But then they time skip when Gwen and Dia are older. Gwen's probably in his mid-20s, maybe somewhere around there, and Dia's probably 18, 19 years old, and she's stunning, but she's blind. That plays a big role. I think the biggest role of this is the ability to, because Dia loves Gwen for who he is, not for what he looks like, or what she can feel, I should say. And that plays a big role, because then they go into a town to parade, the man who laughs, and they show Gwen. But there was a really deep part of this. So once they get to this town, Dia and Gwen, you can tell that they are falling in love. Like I said, that Dia loves Gwen for who he is, but Gwen doesn't want her to love him because of what is wrong with him. And Ursus is telling him, we will find you a good wife, we will look for a wife for you. And the reality is, he's already found who he wants. And once he leaves, the pain in Gwen's eyes of he just wants to be loved by someone who can see and accept for his body, for what happened to his face. And he wants somebody who can see him like that. It's just so wild that like he has this mutilation to his face, but Dia doesn't care. She loves him for who he is no matter what, but he wants someone to see him and love him. And it's a really weird parallel because like he loves her. It's very clear that he loves her so much, but she still wants to get married to him and everything. And what happens is once they're in the caravan, Dia and Gwen are talking about fall in love with each other, and that's where the crowd sees him. And you can tell this actor, if I pronounce his last name wrong, I'm sorry, but it's Conrad Vieira. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Could totally be wrong. The way that he is still smiling, but in his eyes speaks volumes of what real pain is. Throughout this whole story, he's always smiling. He does a really good job, clearly, at making himself smile throughout the whole thing. But it's the eyes, it's the wrinkles on his forehead, it's everything else that's wearing down, showing what his pain is. And that's where I'm like, wow, this is a fantastic actor. This man is so good at acting. And it cuts right after that to, well, the Duchess and the Queen and that Jester again. This time, the Jester gets a letter from this man who says that Gwen is actually the heir to this throne and the Duchess has to marry him. And it's more royal crap, political things that you as the viewer is like, great, because this is the plot. And throughout this whole part, you meet the Duchess. She's kind of more of like the not very traditional kind of girl. She's like kind of like, oh, I'm going to do this and get naked in front of everyone, join the random dudes on the streets. It's just a lot, but I kind of like the element of that with her. And when she goes out on the streets, I'm skipping a little bit because the Jester just manipulates things to make it so it goes his way, and you kind of just want him to die because he's a terrible person. Once that happens, the Duchess goes out into the city and she wants to see the clown, the man who laughs, and she sits on the top row and she watches it. And what happens through this whole part is Gwen is doing his same role and everyone's laughing at him, but he looks up and he sees the Duchess staring at him, but she's not staring at him laughing. She's staring at him in fear, but also in lust. She loves him, but she also is afraid of him. And this is something that Gwen has never dealt with before. He's not used to having a woman do this to him. He's used to being laughed at constantly. So when this all was going down, I was like, oh crap, he's about to mess up. So after the whole thing, she leaves and the show's over. He gets a letter, and the letter confesses from the Duchess that she is afraid of him, but she's also might be in love with him, and she wants him to meet her at midnight. So, well, what does he do? He lies to Dia and leaves. And like I said, one of the biggest points about this movie, I think, to how I look at it, is it's a love story, but it's a love story of finding who you are and who will love you no matter what you look like. And throughout this, when Gwen feels like the Duchess will fall in love with him, the truth of the matter is she doesn't. He goes there and he is so ashamed. He's going like this, constantly covering his mouth because he's so ashamed of how he looks. And she's trying to see it, and then she gets a letter, and the letter explains why the actual truth, and she looks at him and just starts laughing at him. And that's when he leaves. And he goes back, and Dia's just sitting out there waiting for him with Homo the dog. He goes out there, he grabs the letter and looks at it for a moment and just starts ripping it. Rips it up, and he lays on the ground, and she wakes up and she touches him, and then they confess their love. But first, the most important thing is he pulls down his scarf and she touches his face, and you can see the shock for a moment before she realizes that she still loves him. And she has a quote that says, "Gotta close my eyes so I could see the real Gwynplaine." And this is where the first time we actually see Gwen smile, like legit smile. You can see happiness in his eyes. There's no sadness there, it's just happiness wells up inside of him, and it's actually, well, beautiful. And the next day, Gwen gets arrested. Tragic. Can never catch a break, can he? So for the next half hour of this movie, I would say probably the next 20 minutes of this movie, it's a lot of back and forth where they think that Gwen is dead, but then they find out Gwen is not dead. They're going to leave, but then Gwen has he goes to his court of lords and the Queen to essentially tell him like, hey, yo, screw you guys, I'm gonna find my love. And he tries to leave, and then the Jester and everyone else is trying to capture him. But Homo the dog saves his life, and it kills the Jester. And that's kind of how the movie ends, is Gwen ends up with Dia at the end. True love conquers all. Now, when I thought of this movie, when I first saw this movie, I had no idea what I was getting into. I actually thought it was going to be like a horror movie. I actually thought it was going to be like Phantom of the Opera kind of style, where he's just a monster, but it's really not. It's legit a love story of loving whoever you can, no matter what they look like. The appearances don't always matter. And Gwen loved Dio no matter what. Even though she was blind, he still loved her. And the same thing for Dia. She loved Gwen even though his mutation, like with his face, was super messed up, but she still loved him for who he is. And they both accepted that. And you could tell the difference between how he acted once he and her confessed their loves for each other, that he almost just didn't care what people looked at him anymore, because he just was like, I love this woman, so I don't care what you guys all think about me. And it's so beautiful in that way that I was here for it. And with that rationality going through, I was just flabbergasted. There was so much of this movie that you would see how Gwen would just look, the sadness in his eyes, but he's still smiling. And I don't think you could find any actor to do those kind of roles. And this is a film that I actually was expecting to have like a remake, but the thing is, when it comes to silent films, I don't think you could ever do remakes. I say that, but then you have Nosferatu, that was a remake, which was great. The Man Who Laughs, I think the movie does a good job without anyone talking any of that dialogue. Because of that, I don't know how well the actor would be where he could, like, can he talk? You know, it's one of those kind of things, and I just never really understood if it could be played off like that. But with this movie, I was really impressed with how well done this movie was. I was so absorbed into it. I watched it in 3 different seatings because I like to write a little script for it and just have some notes down for it just so I can remember what happens. But with this movie, I was really impressed with it. If I had to give this an honest rating, I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. I thought this movie was awesome. And honestly, it's definitely one of my favorite movies I've seen this year, without a doubt. So that's a win for me as well. If you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate. What other silent films should I check out? I have a couple more on my list I would like to watch, and maybe I'll do a silent film every couple months. I don't know. It's kind of like where I do like creature features, where if I'm in the mood to do it, then I will just do it. If I'm not in the mood to do it, then I won't do it. That's kind of where I'm at right now with just certain kind of films. So we'll see what happens in the future. But right now, I really enjoy this film, and I'll probably watch another silent film sooner than later. And if you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe.